Guys, there are spoilers for this film and this review, so if you don't want to end up in lockdown, go out watch film, then come back. You have been warned. Hey guys, welcome back to another week of Ticket Tuesday. I'm your host, Ronan HD. So yeah, this is going to be a great time. Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Ticket Tuesday. I'm your host, Ronan HD, and this week we watched Eddington, the newest, written and directed by Aster, his newest film. And I like Aster, if you don't know. Hereditary, Midsommar, Beau's Afraid. Very big fan of Aster. Starring Joaquin Phoenix, Emma Stone, Pedro Pascal. This film is a satirical black comedy, and I will say it kind of feels like I need to rewatch it because of how kind of dense it felt. But overall, I really did enjoy it. I really did like a lot of things that it was doing. But before I go on a whole tangent, why I like this film, I'll tell you why I like this film and more. Back at the house.
Your pain is not a coincidence. You are not a coincidence. We
are not a coincidence.
Never just tired. What is going on?
We need to free each other's hearts.
Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Ticket Tuesday. I am your host, Ronan HD, and this week we watched Eddington, the newest movie by Aster, written and directed by Aster. This film is starring Joaquin Phoenix, Pedro Pascal, Emma Stone, and also featuring appearances from Michael Ward and Austin Butler. It's also funny because Michael Ward played a character named Michael, so they have the same name. But anyway, this movie is a satirical black comedy set in the peak of the pandemic, the early to mid 2020, and that really surprised me. When I first saw trailers for this movie, I had no idea what the fuck it was about, because I'd only seen one trailer, and it was basically just a teaser. It wasn't even really a trailer. It didn't really tell me that much about the movie, just enough to get me hooked, and it kind of did. It confused me as to what I thought the movie was going to be about. I thought the movie maybe... I don't know what I thought. It just looked interesting, and it was Aster, so I wanted to see it. And the thing about this movie is there's a lot of... Not a lot, but there is some discourse about it, saying that it was disgusting. People walked out of it. They didn't like the portrayal of the pandemic, the Black Lives Matter stuff. But I don't really think this movie is either anti or pro Black Lives Matter. It is a satire, and naturally, satire is going to poke fun at everything, right? It's not going to pick and choose. I mean, most good satire doesn't pick and choose what it wants to satirize. It does everything, right? And that's the best kind of satire, is that there is no, message in this movie that is, pro one movement or the other, right? There is a message, which I feel like I'd have to watch more than once to really get it down, but it's clearly not just to advocate for one or the other, which is, I think, a good thing, because it's more about, kind of herd mentalities, mob mentality, maybe not, more like cult-like, mindset. So obviously there was an actual cult with Austin Butler, but even the other stuff, like the anti-Black Lives Matter, the pro-Black Lives Matter, stuff like that, a lot of it, I'm not going to try to get super political in this video. I don't want to always get political in my videos, but I will say I think the movie did a really good job at just portraying it. And although it was a little over the top, it still felt believable in a sense with how it was written. I really think the characters, the dialogue was one of the best parts of the movie because it felt natural, right? It was very naturally written. The characters felt like real people, and some of them did. Other ones felt like caricatures and stuff like that. But that was all by design, of course, being a black comedy and a satire. But I personally believe that this movie also felt a little thriller-ish to me. Obviously, being an Aster film, there's going to be suspense, there's going to be, edge of your seat stuff, even if it's not a horror movie or a straight-up thriller. I think the second half of this movie was really, stressful, because even the first half, the first half I think was more grounded, and then the second half just completely fucking lost its mind. Like, the moment I'm like, okay, so what is Joaquin Phoenix's character gonna do? Because his life was basically like falling apart throughout the course of this movie, right? He like basically ruined his reputation in as the sheriff of the town. He ruined his reputation. His wife like left him for Austin Butler, the cult leader, like the crazy cult leader, and then fucking he basically just makes a fool of himself, basically makes an ass of himself like all the fucking time, right? And I think one thing I like though is that he's kind of a good guy at the beginning, and as I said, once he loses everything, he literally turns into like a fucking psychotic murderer, right? So there's this homeless like dude that's just been, he was in the opening of the movie and he was just kind of like rambling, doing homeless guy things, I guess, and he like breaks into, I guess Pedro Pascal owned a bar, and he broke into his bar. He already did it before at the beginning of the movie, and out of nowhere, I did not see this coming at all, Joaquin Phoenix fucking shoots him and kills him. I guess because he was just like so on edge, and I guess maybe as a release, I'm not sure exactly why he killed the homeless guy, but he did. And then like almost basically immediately after that, he gets a sniper and fucking kills Pedro Pascal and his son. Because the movie's plot at first is about Joaquin Phoenix trying to become mayor of his town because he doesn't like what Pedro Pascal is doing, right? Because he's like, he says he's ruining the town, you know, he's working for the big wigs up there, he's like being puppeteered by the corporate, like the corpos and stuff like that. But I think personally, I think that he kind of loses the plot once he murders people, right? I kind of agreed with him at first a little bit. He was, like, getting a little conspiracy theory. He was, like, kind of, being a little weird at the beginning, but I kind of felt bad for him a little bit, you know, because his life kind of sucked, right? His life kind of sucked. And then he just continued to ruin it, and ruin it, and ruin it, until, like, he was getting in a fucking gunfight with supposedly Antifa terrorists. Maybe not even Antifa, just, like, terrorists just trying to fucking hunt him down in the town, trying to fucking kill him. And it was ridiculous. He was, like, literally in, like, walking around town shooting at people. He didn't kill any, I mean, he did kill one guy, but he wasn't the guy he was trying to aim for. He killed a cop that was kind of on his trail a little bit. But he accidentally shot him and blew his leg off. And then the terrorist killed him. And that's the thing. It's kind of funny. It's also kind of ironic, because the big, giant gunfight at the end, it's kind of funny, because previously in the movie, he's like, oh, you know, COVID-19's not even here. You know, there's, like, no war down here. You know, we're like a calm little town. That's what he's talking about. And then later in the movie, there's fucking riots and protests and, fucking a literal war going on in the town, just running around shooting at these guys, like, all down, like, donned in black, like, sweatshirts, I guess. I don't know, it didn't really matter. That's a superfluous detail. Anyway, I really liked that part of it. I did also, I also think the ending was kind of, it was a little comedic, it was a little sad, but also he kind of had it coming. So I fully expected Joaquin Phoenix's character to die at the end. I thought that's where it was naturally leading to. It also would have been kind of funny for the last two Aster movies to have Joaquin Phoenix die at the end of it. I think that would have just been kind of funny. But either way, I digress. He did not die in this, but he might as well be dead, because he gets stabbed in the head by a terrorist guy, and then this kid named Brian, who's actually a pretty important character in the story, and also, like, the theme of the movie, he's pretty important to that as well. He gets a gun and he fucking blasts the bad guy, or, like, the terrorist guy. And then it's kind of funny. He's, like, pointing his camera at a fucking lifeless Joaquin Phoenix. I saved you! I saved the sheriff! I saved him! And he's, like, fucking blood spewing from his head. It's kind of funny. And I had fully expected him to be dead at that point. I really expected that's, like, Joaquin Phoenix just fucking dies there. Because, I mean, you get stabbed in the brain with a knife. I expect you to be dead. But somehow he miraculously survived. But he basically became a vegetable. He can't really move by himself. He can't really talk. He's basically just like a dead body that's still alive, basically. He can do nothing. And it's kind of funny because like when he was trying to run for mayor, he was like, because these people were trying to install this data center that was gonna, like, you know, take away the water and just be bad for the town, right? Like, environment wise. And he didn't want that. He was against it, but, you know, since he killed Pedro Pascal and nobody knew about it, he became the mayor. But I mean, you can't do much when you're bound to a wheelchair and can't talk or move or do barely anything, right? So yeah, he couldn't really say no. He's basically just a puppet mayor at this point, quite literally. Which I think, while it is a little, I think it's kind of a little sad, but it's also kind of deserved, because I mean, he did murder 3 seemingly innocent people. Oh yeah, he murdered Pedro Pascal's teenage son too. So he murdered not only 2 innocent people, but also a child. Now, while I hated that kid, I thought he was annoying and insufferable, did that mean he deserved to get shot with a sniper rifle? Not exactly. I don't think he deserved that. But I think Joaquin's end was pretty deserved. He was kind of a crazy lunatic at the end of the movie. And maybe that's better than him dying, is him just being punished, like watching all these things happen, you know, that he can't control or can't even really do anything. So let's talk about Michael for a minute. Now, he is the sole black character in this movie, and seemingly the only black person in this town. He just so happens to be a cop, right? And obviously this movie taking place in 2020, this was around the George Floyd, you know, whole thing, the BLM stuff. And there are obviously the BLM George Floyd protests in this movie, and there's a bunch of white people being outraged about it, and yes, they can protest it. It was a terrible thing, right? Very bad thing. But he was the only black guy there, and he's the cop. He's guarding it. It's kind of a little ironic, right? And it's unclear whether he was or wasn't affected by it. I mean, there was a scene where they found out about it, and Joaquin, he was kind of just like staring off, you know, he was like, seemed a little zoned out, and Joaquin Phoenix kept like asking like, "Are you okay?" And he just kept, "Oh yeah, I'm fine." So it's not really made clear how he reacted to it, or seemingly maybe he's just trying to not get involved with it. And they're always like trying to convince him, like, "Why aren't you over here? Like, come over here. You should be on our side," right? But it's, of course, later in the movie, though, Joaquin Phoenix, after he murders 3 people, he tries to blame it on the black guy, right? And of course, you know, this whole thing, of course, everybody's gonna believe it, right? And he had this whole plan set up. He was gonna frame him. He, like, planted shit in his car. He made it seem like he was the one that murdered these people. And then, of course, the supposed Antifa terrorists came in. Or there's a theory, a conspiracy theory within the conspiracy theory movie, that these weren't actually Antifa guys, and they were sent by the big corporation that was trying to put the data center there so that they could get their way. And, you know, they would cause chaos and, you know, I guess sway people, because they're obviously, Pedro Pascal, the previous mayor, he was all for getting that data center there, but some people were against it because, oh, it was taking their water and it was taking their resources, and they didn't want it there. But of course, cause of this chaos, you know, it's like, oh, maybe we need this data center here and stuff like that to like sway people over to their side. And to do that, they murder people. Not really out of the ordinary. For big business and stuff like that, but whatever. So they come into town and they kidnap Michael, and they set up a trap for Joaquin Phoenix and another cop named Guy, who, while he is like a part of the 3-man police squad in this movie, he's, I think, the least important out of the 3. I think he's more of just an example of, you know, actual racist and shit cops, right? He's an asshole, and he deserved to. So I'll talk about that. So essentially, they kidnap Michael, and they set up this trap for Joaquin and Guy. And they set it up to where he was, like, in front of this flaming barrel, and seemingly they had explosives set up at a certain line. And Michael, well, he was being held there. It looked like he wasn't being held there, but he was. He had, like, a gag in his mouth or something. He was trying to tell him not to get any closer. But, of course, Guy walked in, and he fucking blew up into a million pieces. And this started the whole gunfight in the town, this giant gunfight, which led to the end of the movie. So I've talked a lot about, the Joaquin Phoenix part of the movie. How he starts out as this kind of, sad and pathetic, but kind of, I guess, he's a little sympathetic, right? You kind of feel bad for him a little bit, to a violent, crazy murderer. Now, let's talk about the other side of the movie, let's say, the Eric and Brian part of the movie. Now, this is more of a subplot, where Eric, who is the son of Pedro Pascal, goes out to hang out with his friend Brian at this meetup that they're not supposed to be at, because obviously you weren't supposed to go, like, to meetups and parties at this time for, COVID-19 and all that. And Brian and Eric seem to take a liking to this girl who is obviously into the BLM stuff, and seemingly Eric and Brian only get into the BLM stuff to get with her, right? Or at least that's my interpretation, because it seemed like they had no interest in it before, and then they were like, oh, ooh, like, rah, rah, like, BLM, seemingly just to get with her. I feel like that was their only motivation. And of course, Eric was being a bit of a dick. Like, he knew that Brian liked this girl, and he, like, sent him a picture of him with her to, be a cocky prick, right? It's like, haha, you can't be with this girl. I'm with this girl now. But it's kind of ironic, because later in the movie, when he dies, she's like, I barely knew him. She's like, I wasn't even with him that much. I barely knew the guy. Kind of funny. But yeah, then I guess that concludes with Brian basically becoming, like, at the end, Brian was in the town when the gunfight was happening, and Joaquin got stabbed in the head by the covert guy, and Brian just walked out with a fucking pistol and just shot at the dude and killed him. And he's like, oh man, I saved you, Sheriff, I saved you. And then it reveals later that he became basically, like, a fucking, like, a hero, like a celebrity. Like, he's got a big house now, and he's, like, fucking living it high, and I just think Brian most definitely got the best out of this entire ordeal. He basically became a celebrity for shooting this guy. So Brian is a good example of, the good guy with a gun beats the bad guy with a gun, right? That whole thing. And it kind of brings in how a lot of the things in the movie have a deeper meaning. It's being a satire, everything has some kind of deeper message or deeper meaning to it. And, again, I feel like I'd have to rewatch it a couple times to fully get everything, like, to fully consume everything that it's trying to tell me, to get it all in. But with that being said, I really did enjoy the movie. I thought it was very enjoyable. It was very stressful, because being an Ari Aster movie, nobody is safe, right? I mean, main characters can die. There is no plot armor in an Ari Aster movie, all right? They can basically die at any moment. And that's one thing I really like about Ari Aster movies, is that it's like on the edge of your seat the whole time, because you don't know what's going to happen. And I love that kind of style. I mean, I thought this movie was a thriller at first, and maybe not fully a thriller, but it does have thriller elements near the end with the gunfight, and, when he fucking murders Pedro Pascal and his son and that homeless guy. Like, that was fucking, to me, out of fucking left field. He just, boom. It seemed like he had that plan, but it was crazy. And then obviously, he, like, spray painted the wall to, like, make it seem like the BLM people killed him, all that. But with that being said, I don't want to ramble here all day, but overall, I just did really enjoy the movie, and I think I would recommend it, but I feel like the movie definitely wouldn't be for everyone. Obviously, some people said they were disgusted and they walked out of it, and I'm not here to say that that's stupid or you shouldn't feel that way, because I'm not you. So maybe if you think you'd like this film and you don't, that's fine. But I personally believe that if you like Ari Aster, if you're a fan of any of the other Ari Aster films, I think you could definitely get a lot of enjoyment out of this one, and I think you should definitely watch it, because it is a good watch. But with that being said, what would I rate this movie? I think I would rate it an 8 out of 10. And, yeah, I think I've said what I say. I think I've said my piece. So, guys, hope you like this video. Share with friends, subscribe, turn those notifications on. Comment on what you liked it, but you guys know how it goes. I didn't really mean to say that. What I really meant to say was, if you guys hated this video, unsubscribe, dislike, and tell me what you hate in the comments. And I've been Run Time HD, off to run for mayor. It's just like... So, when I thought about it, when I was watching this movie, I'm like, I haven't really thought about this. I haven't really seen a lot of movies. I mean, there probably are ones, but this movie being like basically a period piece from during the prime of the prime of the pandemic was kind of interesting to watch, especially since I lived through it. So I just really like the idea, like the concept of kind of like a satirical commentary around that time frame. And I just thought I don't know, there was like points though where I'm like, oh, that store has way too many people in it, and they have way too much shit on the shelf. If this was May 2020, that was like the fucking beginning of it. There would have been nobody there and no food on that shelf. Hang on, pause. Why were they doing the chaos again?